Mira was an enigma. She lived in the secluded village of Willowbrook, nestled amidst emerald hills and whispering willows. Her beauty was legendary. It was as if a sunbeam had been sculpted into a woman. Her eyes, however, held a deep, unspoken sorrow. The villagers whispered tales of her past. They spoke of a tragedy so profound that it had stained her soul. Mira lived a solitary life. She resided in a cottage at the edge of the woods. It was a quaint abode with ivy-covered walls and a thatched roof. The villagers, though curious, kept their distance. They were bound by a fear they couldn't explain, a fear woven from whispers and shadows. The truth of Mira's past lay buried deep within her heart. Each beat was a painful reminder of what she had lost, of the love that had been ripped away. It was a love entwined with a curse that held her captive in its icy grip. One day, a stranger arrived in Willowbrook. His name was Kellan. He was a wandering artist, seeking inspiration for his next masterpiece. Kellan had heard whispers of Mira's beauty. He was captivated by the stories that surrounded her. He sought her out, hoping to capture her essence on canvas. Kellan was drawn to Mira's melancholic beauty. He saw beyond the sorrow in her eyes. He sensed a depth of emotion that resonated within him. He requested her permission to paint her portrait. Mira hesitated. She had closed her heart off to the world. But there was something about Kellan's earnest gaze that compelled her to agree. The villagers watched Kellan's arrival with suspicion. They warned him about Mira. They told him to leave well enough alone, but Kellan was undeterred. He believed there was more to Mira than met the eye. He was determined to uncover her secrets. Kellan set up his easel in Mira's cottage. He began to paint her portrait. As he worked, he felt an unsettling presence. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Kellan was unnerved. He had never experienced anything like it before. Mira, too, felt a shift in the atmosphere. The shadows seemed to deepen around her. The whispers grew louder. It was as if Kellan's presence had awakened something dormant within the cottage, something ancient and powerful. As Kellan worked on the portrait, he noticed something strange. The canvas seemed to absorb the shadows and whispers. It was as if the painting itself was becoming haunted. Kellan continued to paint, driven by a force he couldn't explain. He was determined to understand the mystery that surrounded Mira. One evening, Kellan discovered an old tapestry hidden behind a tattered curtain. He carefully unfolded it. The tapestry depicted a love story. It showed a young woman gazing into the eyes of a handsome man. Mira entered the room and saw the tapestry, her eyes filled with tears. She told Kellan her story. It was a tale of love, betrayal, and a curse. As Kellan listened to Mira's story, he understood the depth of her pain. He realized the curse wasn't just a supernatural affliction. It was the weight of her grief, her guilt, and her inability to forgive herself. Kellan was determined to help Mira break free from her curse. He believed that love could conquer even the darkest magic. Kellan shared his theory with the villagers. He explained that Mira was not a monster to be feared. She was a victim of circumstance. He pleaded with them to show her compassion. The villagers were hesitant. They had lived in fear of Mira for so long. But Kellan's words struck a chord within them. The villagers had always known about the curse. It had been passed down through generations. It was a part of their history, their folklore. The fear of the curse of Mira was deeply ingrained in them. But Kellan's arrival, his empathy towards Mira, had planted a seed of doubt. Kellan continued to work on Mira's portrait. He poured all his emotions into his art. He wanted to capture her strength and resilience. He wanted the world to see Mira as he did. As the portrait neared completion, the shadows in the cottage began to recede. The whispers faded into silence. On the final day, Kellan invited the villagers. As the villagers gazed upon the portrait, they were awestruck. Kellan had captured Mira's beauty. In that moment, the curse shattered. Mira felt the curse lift. She looked at Kellan, her eyes filled with gratitude, and in seeing her, he had set her free.